Hello there, friends. It's Miss Eliza, Children's Librarian at the Waukee Public Library. And for today's ocean-themed Elementary Maker Monday, we are going to be doing an experiment that's a simple way to see how scuba gear works. So we're making Cartesian divers, and that's just a fancy way of talking about a floating and sinking experiment where we can see how air behaves underwater. So what you're going to need for this project is a 2-liter bottle, cleaned out and filled to the very tippy top with a lid that still works. So this one full of water. You're also going to want to have a glass of water for testing our little diver before he goes into the big sea here. Then you're gonna need a straw, and it helps if you have a straw that's got a bend in it. We're gonna be cutting it, so I've got 2 little pieces here from the example. So a straw, helpful if it's a bendy straw, but it doesn't have to be. And then you're going to want your little diver, and we cut ours out of heavy tin foil like a baking pan. So if you got a pack from the library, you've got a little diver already. And this just helps us kind of visualize the diver part. You don't have to have this, but what you really need is the straw and then some things to weight it down. So the diver will help. We're also going to use at least 1 paper clip, but you can also use a couple other paper clips to be more weight, or you can use a little bit of Play-Doh or air dry clay as a way to help weigh down your little diver. So the first step is, if you're using a little diver, you might want to cut him out. So we've already got our little shape here. It just needs to be about 1.5 inches long and probably only about 1/2 inch wide, because it needs to fit down into our 2-liter bottle. So you're going to want to cut them out. And then you're going to want to start working with your straw. Now, I've already got an example here. I'm not going to take this apart, but I'll show you the different steps so that you can see how it's going to go together. So you're going to have a straw. It's probably going to be a full-size straw when you start, and you're going to fold that in half, just making sure that you don't get any holes or anything. So you want to, you want to fold it in half, but you don't want it to be too terribly tight, because you don't want to get any holes in there. And then if you've got a straw that's a bendy straw, it's going to have a bend right about here. So you're going to want to connect your straw, fold it in a way that it kind of can connect into like a really skinny triangle. And then you're going to squish one end kind of like that. Just pinch it together and then slide it in. So as you can see, I'm using 2 little straws, probably not the best way to do it, but you're going to put the ends together so that it kind of creates a little triangle. And like I use 2 little pieces of straw, but if you just have 1 straw and fold it in half, you can kind of connect it that way. It's just going to be a little triangle with some air in there still that the straw is holding, and that's going to be how it's going to help our diver. So once you've got your little straw put together, then you're going to want to attach that to your diver. So you can just kind of hook a paper clip. Let's start with a big paper clip, might be a little bit easier to navigate. So you're going to slide your straw, again, being careful that you don't want to make any holes. So you're going to slide it kind of where the fold is, and then you're going to be able to hook it right to your diver. So you're just going to imagine this is his little scuba diving pack that's going to help him. This is his air. It's helping him while he's under the water. Now, this is a place where you're going to need to experiment with the amount of weight that you add, and that's why we've got our little glass here. So you might be good with this. What you want is for your diver to float vertically. So you can see mine's kind of leaning off to the side. He doesn't quite want to float, so we're probably going to need to add either a few more smaller paper clips onto the bottom to help get the weight right, or you could add a little bit of Play-Doh onto the bottom of his feet to help him get a little bit more weight. And once he's kind of floating vertically straight up and down, it should be ready to try in our big bottle here. All right, so you're gonna take your top off of your bottle, and then you're gonna take your diver, and this is the one I made earlier. See, it's got the sort of folded triangle of straw there. We've got my little diver, and then a couple little paper clips here, and you can see he's floating pretty well straight up and down. So we're gonna put this guy right into our 2-liter bottle. Just carefully drop him in. It's kind of like our diver going under the water, and it should still be floating vertically once you pop him in there. Does it look like he's floating pretty straight up and down? All right, so then we're gonna twist the lid on, and what do you think is gonna happen when we squeeze the bottle? So we'll squeeze it, and our diver sinks right to the bottom. And then when I let it go, he floats right back up to the top. Let's see that again. Squeeze, floats down, and then right back up. So what is going on here? What do you think? So basically what's happening here is the straw, this scuba pack that we made for our little diver, has some air in it. When we squeeze the bottle, the pressure from that, the force from our hands squeezing the bottle, starts to force that air up into the straw, which increases the mass and the density of our diver. So with less air and more water in the straw, it becomes heavier, and then the diver will sink down to the bottom because it's no longer lighter than the water inside of the bottle. And then when we release that pressure, it allows some of that air to fill the straw back up, and he comes right back up to the top. So squeeze to send your diver down to the bottom, and then release him back up to the top. So what does this experiment tell us? Well, for one thing, it shows us about floating and sinking and how those are not always solid states, right? So our diver is made up of the same exact materials, but depending on how much air is being held within that straw, it may be an object that floats and it may be one that sinks. It also shows us that pressure can be just as important as mass or force when it comes to floating and sinking. It's also just a good example to see how variables can affect the outcome. So if you put a little bit more weight onto the bottom of your diver, how do you think that would affect what's happening? And if you made a little bit smaller or a little bit larger of a straw scuba pack, how do you think that might affect what's happening? Lots of interesting things to see. If you'd like to see a story about divers who don't use these scuba packs for air, check out Tina Cho's reading of her book, The Ocean Calls. That is about the Hanyo divers off of the coast of Korea, and they dive really deep and hold their breath for quite a long time without using any of this diving equipment. Really special and really incredible. For those of us who do want to dive, it takes a really long time to get used to this. As you can see, our little diver is experiencing a lot of changes in pressure just going up and down in this bottle. So imagine what it's like going through the ocean with all of those changes. I hope you have fun with this experiment. Let us know if you discover anything cool, and we will see you next time.